being all straight line. You got to speak to people how they want to hear it sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. No, I like that. I like that about it. It's really it's accessible, right? Like a lot of people try and make real estate a little bit too scientific, and I don't know. I like your guys' approach.
Exactly. It's just everyone wants to make it such a big deal.
Yeah, yeah,
It's basic math for most of the transactions.
yeah.
When you get into the commercial stuff, then it's sophisticated. But how many guys play in that space, anyways?
Yeah, and I mean, it's really like it's not even that sophisticated. It becomes a little bit more legally delicate, I suppose, but
Right.
it's not. It's all the same stuff. Like I've always found it funny, how people really want to distinguish between commercial and residential real estate when like the majority of investment capital in Canada is actually going into residential
Always,
investment.
always,
Right?
always.
So
But
I mean,
yeah,
housing is our big product. So I've always found that kind of, I don't know, just I don't know what the word is for it, but it's just kind of, I guess it's just unnecessary or redundant. Like the
correct,
product is the whole thing is the same at the end of the day. Real estate's real estate, right?
correct. So where are
Um,
you right now? Where are you staying? I know you stay between Toronto.
yeah, yeah. So we live up in Holland Landing,
Okay,
but and obviously I'm not going to the office in Toronto very often right now.
okay,
So
okay.
yeah, basically just been doing that and living up here. The market was still pretty strong, I would say, up here until about, I don't know, maybe a week ago, 2 weeks
Yeah,
ago.
so when
Like,
I spoke to you, you said things were still good, and then you forecast this to kind of happen. So you're
yeah,
ahead
I
of.
don't know if I would say I forecasted it, but
Yeah,
yeah, like I definitely was. I was worried about it, right? So I tried to do everything that I could to prepare.
yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and
What
then
was,
I
what was the
guess
name of your podcast? What's the
the podcast itself was brick and mortar, but this new series that I'm doing right now is called Covideo chats. So it's just like it's like a play on COVID and video chats.
oh, that's cool.
And yeah, I guess my vision for it is really just like I'm sure you've noticed this, getting on the phone with more and more people in the real estate space. Like everybody just wants to pick your brain on what your perspective is. So I figured if I could have as many of those conversations as possible with people who
Correct.
I feel are qualified, I can start
Correct.
answering a lot of those questions, or at least getting like just gathering perspective and getting a bigger worldview to present to clients, to present to, prospective developers, investors, whatever on just kind of trying to aggregate that market sentiment from smart people who
Right.
and so that's why I wanted to have you on here to get an idea of how things are looking from your lens
Right.
and what you're doing to adapt on a micro level, like on an individual level, but also on a macro level, like how you are, how your business has changed and how you've seen the industry change.
Correct.
So if you're cool with it, if you're able to just start off with a little bit of an introduction of yourself for those who don't know you and
Yeah.
you and what your day to day looked like, let's say maybe a month ago.
Okay. No problem. So yeah, can you give me 1 second? I just want to grab one thing.
Yeah. So yeah, if you could just start with that intro and we'll kind of progress from there.
Okay. No problem. So hi Daniel, thank you for inviting me on your podcast show. My name is Aaron Charles. I'm a real estate investor, licensed realtor, and also a real estate developer. I've been in real estate for the last 12 years. Started off in multifamily, transitioning from multifamily into buy rental flips. I did some pre-construction work in Toronto, and now I'm doing infill developments and residential developments in the Toronto area. Um, I'm happy to be on this show to discuss real estate in the COVID times.
Yeah.
It's definitely it's a challenge, but there's also some positives that's going to come out of this as well. But a lot of the prep work starts right now while we have the downtime. So I've been spending a lot of time kind of just planning, positioning myself, realigning my goals to kind of take advantage of COVID. Even though I am being negatively impacted right now, how I've always been able to push through things is by not focusing on the negative because I already know it's there, but working on the positive and working on the future. So at least the positives that I get to extract will outweigh the negative. But if you just sit there and just look at the negative outcomes that can possibly happen for you, and you don't work on the positive outcome, that's not going to balance each other out, right? So
Yeah.
you just want to come out of this COVID situation. Um, Everyone's going to get touched. No one's going to be Superman. No one's going to be immortal. As if you watch the news, you're seeing the big guys already starting to get bailed out. I seen Ruth Chris get a $20 million bailout today. Airlines are going to get bailed out. So the small guys have to, put their pride aside and make some hard sacrifices. So I've already started making some hard sacrifices. I sold a couple of my properties for some liquid, just to stay a little bit liquid. Also to fund some other projects that are currently at a standstill, getting them back up on the ground as well.
Yeah.
And they're properties that I never thought that I'll sell.
Right.
But being a real estate investor, it's all about the numbers and it has to make sense. So sometimes, you can't be emotional.
Yeah.
You have to do what's right, because you can always reset and go on the attack. So that's a negative, selling when you don't want to sell. But the good thing is having assets that you can sell in a time like this. So you don't have to depend on government funding and government help. You will have assets that you can liquidate, that you can weather the storm with, right? So this is going to show people the importance of real estate. I think a lot of realtors go out there and say, hey, real estate will go up in the next 5 years, 10 years. No one knows. But I always tell people it's good to have assets to lean on in situations like this, right? If, you care, like, for example, there's times when I'll start my business and, I'll accumulate more debt than I wanted to, right? I can easily tap into my assets, refinance out, and pay those credit card debts off, and keep moving forward, or sell an asset, reset, and go again, right? So it's always important to keep buying assets at any level. But real estate really does well. So I'm starting to see that the condo market is still strong in Toronto.
Yeah.
Most of the properties that I did sell were condos.
Right.
And they're doing well. So yeah, so that's kind of like where we are right now with COVID. We just have to wait and see, be patient.
Were you kind of stuck with selling because that like made you able to access all of your liquidity, or was it because the lending market's tightening a little bit and you couldn't refi to where you wanted to, or what was?
Yeah, like for me, refinancing wasn't really an option. I wanted all the juice out of it.
Yeah.
Plus one of the units was empty, and we just had a tenant move out prior to COVID. Mm-hmm. And we were debating if we were going to sell it or not. So we tried the leasing market, the rental market, and for some reason, everything slowed up.
Yeah.
Remember, Airbnb kind of took a beating with the policy change.
Yeah.
So a lot of rental units came on the market as well.
For sure.
So that kind of saturated the market. Then COVID came and travel stopped. So everyone had a fire sale in terms of, you were catching 1-bedrooms in Toronto furnished being rented for like $13.50.
Yeah.
So it was kind of hard to keep up with that. And I didn't have the time to weather the storm.
For sure.
So I just wanted to liquidate those projects, those one-offs. And I'm getting into other stuff. So I just said, you know what? Where's the highest and best use of this cash right now? It's not going to be in this condo. And my business model is pivoting a little bit as well. So it was a good time. And people were kind of like purchasing now at a rapid rate because they're kind of scared they're going to lose their jobs and they needed to, downsize. So the condo market did very well. I got stuck on a project that I finished. It was a 5,000 square foot reno out in Bloomington. So that slowed up, dried up completely. So I'm selling my condo that I live in now and going to move into that property to weather the storm. So like I said, it's all about adjustments, right? I'm a person that I like to stay nimble. I like to keep moving, fluid.
Agility, yeah.
Yeah. I don't get caught up on, I really like my condo. I need to stay here. Let me try to weather this out. It's like, all right, condo market is doing strong. Let me liquidate my condo. Let me go move into the house.
Yeah.
Even though, I don't have a big family, but, let me put my attention over there and weather that storm over there and liquidate this condo because it's not a need for me right now.
Right. Yeah, man. I think that's the right approach to have, right? I think that it's easy to get bogged down if you're playing in the big leagues and you don't have that agility, right? Like some guys, they could have been stuck with a handful of assets that aren't exceptionally liquid. If you had to fire sale 3 commercial properties and you're stuck in a 6-month absorption cycle, then you would not have the cash in your jeans right now, and you might be, in a much more stressed out position. So at
Right.
least now it's nice, and it's nice to hear that you're positioning yourself to be able to capitalize on this, right?
Yeah, you need to. You need
Yeah.
to.
What on the development side, because I know you're getting into, you're sort of pivoting, obviously, like you mentioned, on the infill side. Um, have has that process pretty much slowed down completely? Like, are you in entitlement phase of most of your developments? Like, just trying to get.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll talk about them individually because they're all
Yeah,
individual
no, I'd love that. That'd be
challenges. Yeah. So Jackson's Point, you're familiar with the Jackson's Point site.
yeah,
You came out, you looked at it, you've talked to me about it a couple of times. The challenge that I'm having there is just we're in a capital raise process to close. We were on pace to close in May, um, but then investors are a little scared of the market right now. Everyone's holding, like you said, their money closer to the jeans right now. So it's been a little challenging on the capital raise side.
mm-hmm.
Um, and then also the city's closed as well. So when I close on it, I'm OMB approved, but I still have to go through subdivision site plan.
Yeah,
And subdivision site plan takes minimum 12 to 18 months. And the city being closed, that pushes the project out.
yeah,
So today I'm gonna be reaching out to the seller and just renegotiate a little bit in terms of stretching out that closing a little bit longer.
for sure.
Maybe set up a deposit structure still along the way. But it doesn't make sense to close on the property, carry interest, all that stuff,
No,
and you can't do anything in the city. And we don't know when the city's going to be back up and running.
yeah,
Not only is the city when it's operating slow in the summertime, if we come out of COVID in the summertime, the city's not going to be ready to pick back up, right?
no,
So I'm thinking maybe like fall is where
for
we
sure.
can start to see some action in the city.
Yeah,
So, everybody has to just play a part. Seller needs me. I need the seller.
yeah,
It's teamwork when it comes to
yeah.
real estate, right?
I would agree, and I mean, even just economically, like in that example, I would say it makes more sense if we're thinking about this as everybody working together. It makes more sense for him to be holding the property in the meantime because his carrying costs are a lot lower, right? Like, I mean, there's no sense in increasing the value of the property in the short term and creating that huge drain on the economy if we're supposed to be working together here right now.
Exactly. So
So,
that's definitely the approach that I want to take.
nice.
And then there's another project that I'm working on right now. I bought a commercial residential property in the Junction area in Toronto,
Amazing.
close to my office when you came down there, Daniel.
Yeah, yeah.
We're going to be building and we could talk offline about it as well, but we're going to be building a 10 unit residential rental property
Amazing.
and one commercial.
Nice.
Ultimately, we're taking a 2-story commercial building, topping it up to 3 stories, and extending it back about 150 feet, and then building rental apartments. So I'm actually, before COVID, I was already pivoting into multifamily again,
Yeah.
going back to my roots. My mentor always told me, Aaron, you're going to go out there because you're ambitious and do a bunch of shit that you're not supposed to do, and you're going to get away from the fundamentals that you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
I was not, I was young. When I started, I was 21, 22. I had multifamily. By age 25, I had 10 apartment buildings.
Right.
But it was boring. It was boring for me. Just collecting rent checks and dealing with tenant issues was kind of boring for me at that age. I wanted to flip houses. I thought that was a cool thing to do.
Yeah.
I wanted to do pre-construction. I wanted to do infills. I wanted to do all that cool, glamorous stuff. But then, as I was going through it, I realized, oh my gosh, I'm too exposed here. Like, I went through stress test change when that came in. That screwed me up while I was in the middle of a flip. The foreign tax change that screwed me up when I was in the middle of a build and a flip. So a lot of those things kind of like just turned me off. That you have to time the market so well on a buy and flip, and it's almost impossible to do that. You lose a lot of time, money, and effort.
Yeah, there's a lot of market risk that you assume in that game, for sure.
Yes. So multifamily, you just buy and hold. I've made most of my money in real estate by buying and holding.
Yeah.
Right? Buying and holding in pre-construction was awesome. 4 years, buy a condo for 200. 4 years later, it's worth 600.
Yeah.
Right? I didn't do anything. There's no effort.
Yeah.
Multifamily, same thing. Buy and hold, property value goes up. Mortgage pay down, rents increase, the cap rate changes. There's your value, right? don't have to get fancy and sexy to make money in real estate. But, you know, I had to go through that. I'm an individual where you can tell me something 100 times, but I have to go through it myself to know if it's for me or not.
Yeah, yeah, for
The
sure.
way I'm a touch and feel learner, right?
Yeah,
Um, so now that I went through that, I'm like, okay, phase two of my life now. That was in my 20s. Now I'm in my 30s now. Let me get back to multifamily. But I want to be able to do multifamily in prime locations.
yeah,
So I started to look at commercial residential, mid cap properties where I can do extensive value add-ons. And you know, it's been beautiful so far. So the game that I'm now transitioning into is not only multifamily but co-living. So we're going to be building purpose-built co-living spaces where instead of renting out the units, renting out by units, we're renting it out by rooms and
right.
creating common spaces for individuals to access. So the reason for that is Toronto has an issue with rental units not having enough on the market,
Yeah,
and two, affordability,
for sure.
right? So it solves two problems. I'm bringing more rental units to the market in prime locations that people want to be, and then I'm creating affordability. So if a two-bedroom unit in Toronto will go for 2,800, two-bedroom, two-wash will go for anywhere from 2,700 to 3,000. I can rent a room for 1,500,
Right.
1,550, right? Even upwards to 1750. So it creates an affordable housing situation for a tenant, and it creates a lot more cash flow for the investor like myself. And then I'm also looking to get into the assisted living space as well,
Nice.
buy family units and convert them into assisted living as well. So I'm just going after straight cash flow. Jackson's Point is going to be my first development, residential development, but it'll probably be my last as well.
You think so, eh?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Because as I'm going through it, I'm seeing all the money that goes to everybody else, and then you're left with what 15, 20%.
Yeah,
It's good, but for the amount of work, effort, and the amount of things that can go wrong, I don't see the value, right?
yeah,
And for me, it's if something goes wrong in a development, which 90% of the time there's something that's going to go wrong. Um, you want to be able to hold that project and weather out the storm, and basically in 5 to 10 years your mistake will be erased just because you held on to it.
yeah,
You only lose in real estate when you sell,
yeah. I agree.
right? If you hold on to it, you can weather that storm and capture your losses in the
Right.
long.
So on the mall, that's really interesting because I've had sort of a similar vision for the multifamily and for the mixed use development. Is the municipality pretty receptive, and are you planning to try and take that through the CMHC affordability program, or do you know yet?
Yeah, so it's so funny that you mentioned that. You're a very smart guy. I always respected that about you.
Yeah, thanks.
I just got off the phone with my one of my partners who sits on my board.
Yeah.
He's a mortgage agent.
Okay.
Um, so I sent him a text yesterday. Hey, look into the CHMC affordability programs for co-living. Get back to me. So we're on the phone this morning, and he's just breaking down the criteria for me.
Right.
So yeah, we're definitely gonna attack CHMC. Um, they have great plans and rates for affordable housing.
Well, yeah,
Uh,
I guess if you do the actual affordable housing, I mean, I guess you're stuck at 70% of AMR for 20 years, but like what you said, right? If you're going to hold the property for 20 plus years, then after that average or below market rent period is up, like the 70%, then you can jump back up to, so there's a restrictive covenant on it. The only challenge becomes if you want to sell, right?
yeah, so the vision for myself now is I don't mind the 70% because I'm buying the property, let's say for $3 million,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm putting 2 million into it. The valuation is going to be, let's say, 10 million when it's finished, right?
Yeah.
That's 70%. I still get to take some juice out of it because I increased the value of the property.
Mm-hmm.
When you're purchasing it as a finished product, it kind of sucks, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you get to increase the value, you can pull some money out up front and recapture some of your expenses. But ultimately, for me, it's building a portfolio in and around the Toronto area, core locations. Um, just to give you an idea, like Junction, Annex, Queen West, King West, those type of locations,
Yeah.
where I can hold on to it for 30, 40 years,
Yeah.
and create a REIT. The goal is to create a REIT,
Right.
a REIT of highly favored cash flowing properties in Toronto that my investors can come in and make a return on their capital through the REIT.
Yeah.
So I'm looking to build up my business now from a very sophisticated standpoint, doing it the right way, having great assets that are going to produce through any storm, right? When I started off, I was in Hamilton. Um, I went to St. Catharines as well, but Toronto is where I know it's going to hold strong no matter what happens. Toronto's going to rebound before anyone rebounds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So on that note, then, like with a forward-looking mentality that you have, are you seeing this whole COVID thing as an opportunity? Like, is that why you wanted to access that liquidity sort of before things? Like, are you in? And obviously, I don't want to make you put you in a position where you're supposed to be, have a crystal ball or act like an economist. But are you anticipating that there'll be good buying opportunities over the next, let's say, 3 to 6 months, maybe a year? And
Yeah.
like, do you think that we're going to start seeing some distress in the market?
Yeah, so I'm a very open book type of individual, and for those who know real estate and are in the game of real estate, the buyer is going to have the most control right now. Anybody who wants to sell coming out of COVID is going to be in a position of no power, little to no power, um, because when COVID is finished, a lot of people's finances are going to be damaged. Um, people have lost jobs. People are holding on. So anyone who's looking to sell real estate in that time is going to be discounted because the individuals coming to purchase, their purchasing power is also lower as well. And the market's going to now dictate what people can pay for your property. Um, so in the space that I'm playing in, the commercial residential, I know for a fact anybody who's selling in that space is going to be willing to be deal making because they're most likely going to lose their commercial anchor tenant. Um, they're going to have some vacancies, and they're just going to be tired. They're going to be tired because the space that I'm playing in, where I have to do substantial top ups and additions and underpinnings to make that building. So, for example, the building I purchased is 6,000 square feet. When I'm finished with it, it's 12,000 square feet. So I'm doubling the footprint.
Right.
It's too small for the big guys and it's too big for the small guys. I'm right in the middle.
Yeah.
Very small. There's very few middle guys.
Yeah.
Right.
No,
Decided to
same
try it out.
philosophy, man.
Huh?
I really admire like what you're doing because I have a very similar philosophy on the market. I think all the opportunity rests exactly with what you're describing.
Correct. It's right in the middle. So it's too big for Tridel, Menkes, and Minto, but it's too small for Joe the Flipper. So coming in for the guy who graduated from flipping but has the development mindset.
Yeah.
Understanding you're taking a commercial residential property that has a CR3 zoning and you can 3 times the density, take it through the site plan process, and then build a residential, right? Because it's commercial and residential. And then if you put more residential units in there, the taxes will be a lot lower on the property as well. So it's an interesting game that I'm getting into, but it's that sweet spot. It's that sweet spot. 10 to 15, 20 units is what I'm looking for. 2 bedrooms, 2 to 3 bedrooms, because my business model is to rent them out by doors.
Right.
Yeah.
That'll be, and I guess we didn't jump into it because we kind of got more into the CMHC side. But is the city pretty receptive to the co-living concept?
Well, co-living isn't new. So in Toronto, there's companies out there that are in co-living space. Their business model is to rent out sublease condos and then rent out rooms in those condos.
Right.
There's a couple of companies out there. In terms of the city they give you your permits based on a conventional apartment. Right. So they don't care how you operate the building, right? You can put one family in a 3-bedroom, or you can put 3 people in a 3-bedroom. Right. What you can't do is put 6 people in a 3-bedroom and start to kind of overload the building, right? But once you're playing within those parameters, you will be fine. The city doesn't govern you on what you really do with your rental units. Then they want to eliminate short-term rentals. So co-living isn't something that's new. Co-living has been around forever. It's just a sexy new word that's being used, right? Yeah. When you went to university, you had student housing, right? When you got into adult life, you had a roommate, right? It's the same thing. It's a sexy way of saying roommate, but it's co-living. Puts a little twist to it,
Yeah.
messes with the brain a little bit.
Yeah, we should chat actually because I have two pretty keen opportunities for something similar in the Hamilton market. I think we could scoop up probably. One of my partners has them right now that they just took back, so we'll have to chat after about it. I'd be interested to just leverage your experience, even if you're not interested in getting involved in it.
Yeah, definitely. We can definitely talk about it. But yeah, I push people now to think, if I was to do it all over again, it's definitely that multifamily space.
Right.
In cities that have high attraction for renters, because you gotta be able to weather the storm, man. You can't be holding. I broke my number one rule, right? You're not supposed to buy residential properties as investment properties. They're principal residences, and that's what it is.
Yeah.
What what saved me is what I got into. I caught the wave on condos early.
Yeah.
Started buying condos in 2009, all the way till now. So I got a good ride. But I broke my rule and bought a 5,000 square foot home and renovated it. But I got it at a good price. I picked it up at 1.4 million. The appraisal was 2.1. All in, when I was finished, I was at 2.3, and I was selling it for 2.9. Not a bad return, but you need a specific buyer, right?
Yeah.
You need a specific person that wants that property, and it takes time. And someone like me, I don't have time to sit 6 months for something to
You
sell.
don't have the patience, eh?
No, I don't have the patience.
No.
So going back to who I am and understanding my threshold, I'm a multifamily guy. I like the cash flow. I like holding on to things. I really like to hold on to properties. So now I'm going into full gear and building out these multifamily units. That's going to be my focus for the next 10 years, to build up as many multifamily boutique style apartments as possible.
Nice.
And also some of the units that I'm going to build, I'm going to get like a hotel license for them as well, so I can operate them as hotels seasonally.
Nice.
So I don't know if you ever heard of a company called Saunders out in Montreal.
No.
You can look them up after, but they're kind of like a boutique style hotel that they put their footprint in communities. Yeah. So they don't have hotels like downtown Toronto or anything like that, but they will be in like a community of Toronto, like the Junction, Queens, Queen West, King West, and it'll be like a small little boutique building, but they'll operate as a hotel. So it gives travelers that experience of the city, in the community, versus going right to the belly of the beast when you travel, right?
Yeah.
It's almost like going to Colombia and staying in like a hostel where you're in a little neighborhood, right?
Yeah.
So I want to be able to have flexibility with my buildings. So during the dry season, operated as co-living or commercial. During high season, operated as a boutique hotel.
So funny. Johnny and I were looking at a deal out in just past Kingston there in the Thousand Islands area. It was an old hotel, and we were gonna do the same thing. I think we were trying to negotiate a contract with the city of Kingston to do a homeless shelter there during the winter months, and then in the summer when it was hotel season in the Thousand Islands, we would actually run a full hotel there. Never ended up working out, but it's just
that's an interesting concept, because the tenant mix is so different, where you have to do a huge conversion every single time, right?
You'd be spending a lot of dough, but the way that we had it structured, at least what our target was that it was basically triple net. So when they were in there, they're government funded, and then they also had to fully clean and repair everything each year, because they were getting it for 3/4 of the year, right? Like the summer season in Gananoque was only, I think it was like, you're probably May till end of August. So,
right.
And then you get the shelter really when it's needed to get these people out of the cold, right? And then our objective was to make it the municipality's responsibility to make sure everything was turned around and presentable again for the season. Yeah. That's cool though, man. It's funny. I think there's a lot of obviously similarities in the way that we think about these properties.
Well, for anyone who's going to be listening to this podcast, the biggest advice I can give you is, coming out of COVID, solve a problem.
Yeah.
You have to solve a problem. You have to solve a problem that's going to benefit the masses of people who are going to be in trouble. Yeah. So you have to put on your entrepreneur hat and say, okay, listen, a lot of people are going to sell their homes. Some people may lose their homes, but they need shelter. Where are they going to go? You have to provide that, right? And you got to do it in an economy of scale, because now it's going to be a lot of people in need at one time, right? So even if you're a lender and you have capital, maybe have a special lending program for people who are trying to rebuild themselves coming out of COVID, and
Yeah.
where you'll get a lot of business, right? You just gotta put on your entrepreneur hat and say, okay, I'm suffering now, but how can I make this up coming out of COVID? There's going to be so many people that are going to be in need.
Yeah.
And if they don't have your thinking capacity, you can really benefit from this. So for me, it's like, okay, let me start sourcing multifamily that I can scoop up because a lot of people are going to be displaced, or a lot of people's incomes are going to be slashed. People are going to have to start to go into other sectors of industries that they weren't in before, and just to recover, and their pay might be not the same, right? They may have to take a pay reduction, or everyone has to take a pay reduction in the economy because companies are trying to rebuild. So now you have to people are going to be looking for affordable housing solutions, right? So if you can find that, that's the golden ticket right there for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I think your approach on the affordability side is obviously like makes a lot of sense to me, especially in that respect. Like affordability will never go out of style, right? I think there's a floor in pricing, especially in rental, like where eventually people, when you get far enough below the poverty line, there's a welfare system, and rent can't really go below what those people can afford, right? I think it's funny that I'd a lot of my friends, like I love especially the Jackson's Point area, and I have quite a few rentals up there, and a lot of my friends would call me like a slumlord or whatever because of the type of people that the buildings that I was purchasing, and the people that they felt that I had attracted. And I thought it was interesting when this COVID thing happened and the April 1st rent was coming around, and a lot of your typical tenant, a guy like you and I, who's working in the financial sector or in the restaurant sector, isn't going to be able to afford their rent, and now they have to wait 15 days or 30 days to get their EI or their curb or whatever it is. And I turned around to the same people who were insulting me then, and I had said, hey, how are your rentals treating you now? Because my clients or my tenants already have their EI, and I take pride in being able to provide affordable housing, and I want to be able to do it at a greater scale. So I think it's not only admirable that you're doing that, but also smart, because it's a sector of the market that not a lot of people want to serve,
Yeah. And then affordable housing has different tiers to it too, right? There's like affordable housing, like you said, that's at the exact right at the bottom. And there's affordable housing where it's even for professionals.
For sure.
Just coming out of university, just getting into their first job, starting off at 40, 50K, paying off student loan debt. Well, you need affordable housing because you have limited income and you have responsibilities to pay off till you get married and group that income together and go buy your white picket fence house. There's going to be a need for you to have some type of affordability.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've been through it all, even in Hamilton, ODSP tenants. I had, what's the other one?
But ODSP will pay you directly, right?
Yeah, they pay direct to you.
The other one's Ontario Works, I think.
Yeah, Ontario Works. And then there's the other one with the kids. I can't remember the one. Social something.
Yeah.
I can't remember where they pay the kids, like the teenagers and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, like I said, people have to do what works for them.
Yeah.
Or like too many people are judgmental and say something's not for them, even though they haven't even tried it.
Yeah.
It's just about building systems, man. You have a system that you enjoy. It's not that you really enjoy serving those people. You have a system that works.
Yeah.
Because there could be nightmare stories for that, but once you have a good system, so be it. But cash flow is king. Cash flow is king.
Yeah, for sure. What are you looking for right now? Like, are you just really just trying to see these existing projects through, or and how are you, like, are you actively prospecting for more deals in this market? And if so, how are you going about doing that? Like, how do you find the one in the Junction that you're?
Yeah, so a little bit of everything you just mentioned, right? I'm just trying to weather the storm for the projects that I have going on right now.
Yeah.
I have a residential top-up build that I have in the Danforth area that's been on standstill for a while. And I'm building a triplex in the Queen and Lansdowne area. We're actually starting back tomorrow with the underpinning.
Nice.
And I'm because when Doug Ford came out with the list for essential services, anyone who had a building permit prior, and if it's residential, you can continue to go. So the guys are going to be back going on Thursday. Jackson's Point will be affected, definitely. I have to reach out to the seller and renegotiate the closing. I just don't see it making any sense. But obviously renegotiate some terms that would make him happy.
Yeah.
And then I have the Dundas Apartments that I'm pursuing. We have that we're purchasing that with building permits, so we're ready to go there as well. So that's going to be starting during COVID. The great thing about COVID with that property, Dundas Apartments, was the seller actually came on board as a JV partner.
Nice.
So he's holding his current financing in place.
Yeah.
Got the construction financing, and then we're coming in with our equity amount and doing a JV with him. And
so
then
did you close it to do that, or did you just basically give him like you bought in as a partner in the deal?
yeah, so I just bought in as a partner with the deal. So
Wow.
post COVID, I was purchasing it from him. And then when COVID came around, like I said, everyone wants a deal to get done. He said, you know what, Aaron, I'll lend you my equity towards this deal at a rate that like 4%. It was really cheap, and hold the mortgage for you and get the financing. And then you guys come in with your equity and finish off the project. And when it's done, you buy the project buy it off of me, the project, when it's all completed.
Mm-hmm.
So that worked out really good because we didn't have to go for any financing. At that time, commercial lenders didn't want to touch anything. So we just kept what was existing and rocked and rolled with that. So like I said, there's a lot of deals out there. When you're the buyer right now, you can work with a seller right now. So I'm going to be going out there and VTBing the shit out of this economy for sure.
Yeah, that's my strategy as well. I actually have one. The structure that the vendor's looking for is very similar to what you just described. So maybe I'll run that address by you afterwards as well, because it's a little bit out of my snack bracket just on the development size, because it'd be right down to the ground. Like I'm looking for something a little bit more add value that like what you're doing, but maybe some guys.
You're looking for more like existing structure, value add, right?
Yeah.
The best way to do it, right? You just go in there, get a slap a second on it, going boom, boom, 6 months out, right?
Yeah.
Go through that whole development process right now. And especially like once COVID starts happening, everyone's going to be rushing into the city.
Yeah.
What I like about Jackson's Point is that it's such a small area. There's not going to be a lot of people bombarding the city. Maybe York Region a little bit, the York Region side, but hopefully everything pans out there.
Yeah, I think you'll be fine, actually. Like, to be honest, I was actually a little bit worried about it, like, towards the end of last year, because I didn't really see the market going in the right direction. But the beginning of this year really gave me a lot of hope for the resurrection of, especially, like, density. Like, well, I mean, not density, but let's call it, that's density for Jackson's Point. Your row housing in those areas. Like, I really think that those values are going to recover. I think that more and more families, young families, are wanting to move up there. And I think that you'll do great. So, yeah.
Did you know the site, Lakeview Village? It's sold, right?
Yeah. I saw that it was in play, but I'm not sure what happened there. I wonder.
They sold it.
Yeah.
Well, development group picked it up to build. That's good. So that's their marketing, and that attraction and buzz will definitely.
Who bought it?
I don't know the group that bought it, but when I reached out to Sandy, she told me it was sold.
Mm-hmm. I'll do some homework there.
Yeah, but my project's not gonna be ready for another. I want probably 2.5 years.
Yeah.
So I think it's definitely gonna be a boost. And what I like about that Jackson's Point area, I'm the last development there.
Mm-hmm.
I have the last sewer water allocation. I have everything. I'm the last guy. So I'm just being patient there. And then once I close on it, and then I'm coming with some nice, modern, cool designs as well.
Yeah, it looks really sharp. I liked your renderings. I think you'll do well in that market, and especially with like the time's on your side. In my perspective, I think like the municipality is traditionally pretty slow up there anyway, and they're going to be probably quite slow to ramp back up for as we reopen the economy after COVID. So, but I think in that one, time is definitely on your side.
Thank you. So COVID, like I said, like we've been stressing to our listeners, it's a negative right now for the short term, but it's going to be a positive if you know how to reposition yourself.
Yeah.
And if you personally don't know how to reposition yourself, start aligning yourself with people who can reposition you.
Yeah.
Because cash is king right now. And this is going to be a lesson for everybody. And I always preach this, and a lot of people don't listen to me. Um, your house is not there for you to pay off because you don't know what the end of the road is going to look like. When you realize enough equity, you're supposed to take that equity out and reposition it.
Yeah.
Because look at right now, everyone's equity is going to get slashed,
Yeah.
right? You don't have realized profits until it's in your hand. If it's just sitting in your home, it's exposed to the market at any given time, right? So if you had 200,000 in equity and your house dropped 100 grand, you just gave away 100 grand you could have used. You could have used that 200,000 when and bought a multifamily building that could spit you out $150,000 a year in income, right? So I want people to start to realize that you don't have all the time in the world.
Yeah.
Everything is urgent,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
When I saw this COVID thing happening before they even shut it down, I called my girlfriend and said, "Listen, list those 3 condos today," right? And in 24 hours, we got offers on all of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
$20,000 less than what they were originally selling for back then, before COVID, but it didn't really matter because I bought them 4 years ago at a really good price, so
Yeah.
it was fine, right? But now, and then right after that, condo buildings start saying, no more showings.
Yeah, I know.
Can't enter the building, right? So with COVID, you have to move very swiftly because then any day the news can change on how the new approach is going to be.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a game that you have to move fast on right now.
For sure.
Yeah.
What kind of advice are you giving to friends, clients, family, or whatever right now? Like, is it just similar to what you had said? Just kind of make sure you're prepared and do everything that you can to capitalize on this?
Yeah, like my circle of individuals, like I don't know if people feel I'm too like out of their league to talk to, but no one really comes to me really right now. I think the majority of the population is literally just doing what the government says, stay at home and do nothing.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't think most people around me aren't really doing much.
Yeah.
It's just really me repositioning myself because I know I have to. I have a lot on the line, so I have to reposition myself. But the few people that I do talk to, they're doing the same thing. They're developers and builders as well. And we're just leveraging the system as well, right? We're deferring mortgage payments where we can, deferring car payments where we can, deferring everything. If the option is there, why not take it?
Yeah, for sure.
It's not a pride thing. It's more of be smart, right?
Yeah, protects that cash flow that you're talking about, right?
Yeah, if you can protect some cash, protect it.
Yeah.
Right now I'm having some conversation with some investors, renegotiating some terms, renegotiating some timelines, just doing things to reposition. This is a time where everyone has to help out. This is a time where everyone has to be accommodating and reasonable, right? Yeah. The whole world is going through it. It's not just me, and it's just not you. It's everybody. So we all have to do our part to keep the economy alive, right? So that's my advice to everybody: is do what you can and be smart about things, and don't look at things from a pride perspective. Oh, Daniel sold his home through COVID. He couldn't hang on. Who cares?
Yeah.
A home can always be purchased.
Yeah.
It's not so serious, right? Do what you need to do to survive, and then when we start to see the light again, reposition yourself.
Yeah, for sure.
But a lot of people out here, they're going to be operating on pride, right?
Well, it shows you now how poorly that served a lot of people, right? Like very quickly you could see how many people didn't have the money that they were making it seem like they had, right? And and I hope that part of the result of this is, the best outcome would be that people realize that the economy is not invincible and that they are not invincible, and that, that there are things that are, serious externalities that could just come in and curveball you like this, and you ought to be prepared and not just expect that your home's always going to go up in value or your stocks are always going to go up in value.
Yeah.
It requires critical thinking as well to make money.
There's tons of people right now I know who are losing money in the stock market, and then there's a whole other group who are making money in the stock market, right? It's just a different level of thinking, like you just said, and a different level of education. COVID education is different than your past education.
Yeah.
You gotta educate yourself for COVID, right? What are you going to do in COVID? Educate yourself. What kind of properties are going to do well after COVID, right? Maybe you do nothing. I think this recovery, how long do you think this recovery is going to take, your opinion? Because I think it's going to be about, so I'm not even worried about COVID. I'm worried about the recovery.
Yeah, same. So am I. I think it's going to take probably over 2 years, probably 2 years.
Yeah, I'm thinking 2 to 3 years, definitely.
Yeah. Like, you know, there's a lot of, again, like, I think that we have this culture in Canada, and a lot of it probably comes from the US, but you know, that we don't need emergency funds, right? And businesses are proving that they, like, even like if Fortune 500 companies are proving that they didn't have enough money to weather 15 days of, you know, I mean, right now we're seeing Q1 earnings being reported for all of these companies, and some of them are down 50%, even though they only lost half of a month of Q1.
Yeah.
Like, so they lost what, 1/6 of Q1.
Yeah.
And all of the, like, so to me, and individuals are doing that too, right? So I don't think, like, we haven't seen insolvencies because nobody's reporting, and everything's being deferred. We're not seeing, so like, insolvencies aren't going to be indicating properly. Defaults on mortgages, I mean, that's deferred for 6 months minimum.
Right.
Like, the unemployment's at its highest ever, really. Unemployment will be at Great Depression levels. And I think a lot of these companies that realize, again, they just came to terms with their mortality. Like, they realize they're not invincible.
Yeah.
They're not going to hire a lot of those people back, because they're just going to say, well, hell, I just had the opportunity to slash my overhead. I'm just only going to take back essential people. And now the incentive to replace certain people with automation increases. So I think that this is going to be, like, this will be a very notable reset in the economy, that I think it's like, I think the recovery really is a decade, but I think, like, we're not going to start seeing positive economic signs probably for 2 years. I really believe that.
I love the way you broke that down. It's right. Like, and they're going to realize, like, shit, if this was to happen again, as fragile as this is, why am I going to be carrying this load again?
Right.
I don't want to go through this pain again.
Right.
So it's going to be very interesting times, but as a real estate investor and being in real estate, there's going to be a need for housing.
Yeah.
But it has to be in the rental development space. Has to be. If and no other time but now, to be building purpose-built rentals, if you can, right? But even for the average Joe, you know, build out secondary and third suites, right, in your property.
For sure.
That's just the way it's going to be. You know, the detached home market's going to get crushed for sure.
Yeah.
People aren't even going to want to touch that, or the price is going to have to come down significantly. So, and those people who purchased those properties in bidding wars and stuff like that, you know, I would tell them to hold on, but see if they can build income suites in there. You only lose when you sell it, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I haven't been watching the news either during COVID.
When you said don't watch the news?
I haven't been watching the news. I don't want to hear negative information.
Yeah, I read it like crazy, just because I've assumed a bunch of bear market positions. So, you know, like, in the stocks, just because I'm trying to make some money on the way down. I'm very similar to you. Like, well, obviously a little bit different in that respect, but I just want to be ready when I feel the bottom is. And I've been pretty decent at picking the top, and so hopefully I can be the same at picking the bottom. But I went to cash sort of a couple of days before things really got bad, and bought a bunch of inverse funds. And so I feel comfortable right now. I feel like I've built a good hedge, and I think that's my advice for a lot of people. That, you know, if the market goes up and recovers, and I'm wrong, that's great. That's a good thing, and I don't need the money that I invested against the market. You know, that where I bet against the market. But if the market goes down, I'm probably going to need that money, because it's going to be hard for me to make that. My earning potential is going to suffer. What do you think the recovery is going to look like?
Hold on 1 second. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, for some reason the screen changed, so I'm trying to. Yeah. Okay. For some reason it just stopped showing me you, so I just wanted to.
All good.
It's all good. So
you're better to look at anyway, I'm sure.
What I think about the market? Yeah, same. We have the same exact view. I think it's going to take 2 and 3 years just to see some momentum going upwards. But you're right, at least a decade, man.
Yeah.
Because too many people got affected at the same time, and a lot of people were already overstretched and over leveraged, right?
Yeah.
And I was even in over leveraged positions as well, because
Yeah.
you're growing a business, you're trying to push to your max potential.
Yeah.
Uh, Nothing wrong with that. You're slapping seconds here, you're refinancing here, and then you're trying to push for the next goal, which is land development. That's not an easy goal. At this age too, you're working with mostly your capital, and then eventually trying to bring investors on board as well, and that takes some time. So I just realized, and you have to be honest with yourself in a market like this and say to yourself, like, where were you doing good and where were you doing, what things were you doing wrong? And 90% of the time, people who are building businesses, they're building businesses wrong, because who's really teaching you every day how to build a business? You're really just going off off your own intuition 90% of the time. Where you can save, most of the time business owners are not looking at where they can save money. They just see money coming in, but they don't see where they can actually be saving money.
Yeah.
Right? And sometimes to save money, you got to lose money to save money, meaning make some hard decisions, take some cuts, but then you'll rebuild back faster. But people don't spend a lot of time to see that, right? They look at it as a loss.
Yeah.
So for me, it's just like, let me take my step backs now. Let me take my hard lessons now. And then when COVID is starting to hit its peak and we can start to rebound, I can run a lot faster with a lighter load and catch up for the things that I let go. But letting go was essential for my growth, right?
Yeah.
So you always got to be honest with yourself. And a lot of people, I feel, coming out of COVID, their pride and their ego is going to be bruised. And a lot of people are going to have a hard time coming back from it, because when you thought you had it figured out, you had the nice car, you had the house, you had the job, money was coming in, you're vacationing 3-4 times, and now you have to start over again. A lot of people aren't going to be able to handle that, because starting over, it takes a certain type of person to do.
Yeah, for sure. I agree.
Yeah, but
is there anything else you want to add before we sign off? I just want to be mindful of your time. I'm sure you and I could probably have this conversation all day, but
yeah, I know. No, I just want to. I like what you're doing.
Thanks, man.
I like that you're staying active. A lot of people are, they're just sitting back watching, but you're being proactive. You're educating people on the market. You're also looking for opportunities as well, and that's the way you have to do it. You have to keep your ears to the ground, and you have to stay sharp, and you have to stay ready. That's the only way you can do it. You're gonna have to the longer this goes on, be prepared to make some hard decisions, but it's just about surviving right now. It's not about anything else. It's just about surviving. And what that means is just making sure that your family's taken care of, making sure you're comfortable and you're safe. And then everything else will figure itself out. It's only money. Money is made and lost all the time. So, our parents went through it, our grandparents went through it, generations before went through their similar struggles. So it's our time, and we just have to buckle down and just be prepared for it.
Yeah, man. Good. I love that perspective. If people want to get in touch with you to talk about the deals you're working on, or just to pick your brain, where would you prefer they reach out to you? And I'll put this all in the show notes.
My Instagram is at Golden Triangle Group.
Okay.
And then my email is goldentriangledevelopment.ca.
Awesome. Okay.
All right.
Amazing. Thanks a lot for your time, man. I really appreciate it. I think your insight's been, I know, exceptionally valuable to me, and it's nice to know that somebody has a similar perspective towards the market as I do, and gives me some comfort. But I think it's going to create a lot of value for a lot of the people listening. So I really appreciate you taking the time to share it.
Yeah. Thank you for reaching out to me. I really appreciate you including me.
My pleasure, man. My pleasure.
I love talking real estate with smart people. And, real estate, like you said at the beginning, is just a simple conversation. It doesn't have to be too technical.
Yeah.
It's just simple approaches that make a big difference for everybody. So
yeah,
I'm looking forward to seeing the video when it comes out.
Yeah, buddy. I'm looking forward to getting it out. Thanks again for your time. I'll be in touch too about the. I want to talk about that CMHC and also about those 2 sites in Hamilton. So
okay, yeah, just message me. We'll definitely make time for it.
Okay, buddy. Talk soon.
Have a great day. Thanks. Bye.